circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, gods.
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
Now, release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
Demonstrate what the lie of the machine was. Change Personal Medical Journal, Professor Lucifer BM 1402, 10.10.22 Project Aeon. Subject 0 seems to be getting oriented quite easily. His evolutionary cellular mitosis rate and metabolism is astounding. It's as if it is writing the coded genetic format sequences as it goes. This is definitely a superior bioweapons project, but from where and for what purpose? It definitely is not a human-conceived project design as my handlers would leave me to think. I mean, it combined human DNA along with 2 other alien species DNA as well as some animal chromosomes for a protective support cells membrane capable of healing the damage done in order to splice it. I am not allowed to know very much about this project as it is being kept very hush-hush, but I heard some of the other biophysicists talking about how the initial phase went along smoothly despite the multiple attempts to stop them. They never had a clue as to the true purpose of the coronavirus being a bioweapons project, though the implications are astounding. Do the ends justify the means? Do all those deaths seem justified in the pursuit of science? If their experiment was supposed to produce a cure to the world's diseases, then why is this monstrosity here as a byproduct? It looks like someone went and took the nightmare from Hollywood right off the movie screen and brought it into the real world, especially its rapid metabolic rate that requires it to consume large amounts of muscle fibers to sustain itself. Journal entry, Professor Lucifer BM 1907, the 11th of October 22. Project Aeon. It's amazing how the design process is set for implementation of the augmentation cycle for this project they've created. It first begins with a mold spore nanite applicator that penetrates the skin layers without the need for surgical incision. Then, on a cellular level, the nanites use a type of CRISPR gene augmentation technique and make slight alterations to the chromosomes that produces a type of coronavirus-type bacterial contingent that begins copying the host's generic RNA sequences and replicating its compiled data extracted from all the various hosts that it has infected, and begins a cellular mitosis mutation that goes through 9 separate variant phases before it enters a cocoon-like molting stage. In this phase it seems to pull together all the efficient cellular data it has adapted as it begins to speed up its metabolic rate even more that causes the cellular mitosis to hemorrhage biological material in first a plasmodial state, but then the outer shell of the cocoon hardens, encasing the plasmodial material inside where it begins to solidify and take on a fetal stage of physical rapid growth. In this stage is where the nanites return with specific genetic DNA and RNA chromosome data extracted from the 3 different species of intelligent life forms that are spliced and surgically grafted together using the chromosome data drawn from a great white shark, an egg-eating snake, a Bengal tiger, and a white-eyed buzzard. They also are using the maturity developmental enhancement methods the U.S. military had used in their super soldier project that was removed from the project due to the effect of mental psychosis the subjects developed caused by its use. However, the lead project oversight committee considered this not to be a factor because of the great white and Bengal tiger chromosome splicing, which would cause a predatorial effect to occur anyways. But the uniqueness of the great white shark seems to be that any further enhancement of any psychotic attributes only enhances its predatorial efficiency, thus bypassing the mentally weakening effect. Elon Musk has assured us that his new Neuralink model we've redesigned to maintain direct neurological control over the subject with a fail-safe kill switch built in, preventing any subjects from leaving the area for any reason. But I do not trust Mr. Musk. He has that aura about him that reminds me of the vibe Judas Iscariot used to give off whenever he entered the room. That gut feeling that screams betrayal. Journal entry, Professor Lucifer BM 1239 HRS, the 12th of October 22. Project Aeon. Subject 0 has developed its cognitive response patterns at an alarming rate, and its memory retention is far more advanced than anticipated. Just last night an alarm went off as it had tripped a perimeter alarm trying to escape through the ventilation shaft after accessing it through the steam air pressure purification circulators.
An inoculation component for elite invader biochemical weapon known as replicants or reptoid interceptors. They are inserted on hostile foreign worlds through meteor debris embedded with the synthetic nanites that infect the indigenous population and replicates the genetic host's biological defense system, and continues to spread through the entire planet's host of life, and adapts the perfect model of a compiled genetic copy of all those it has infected, then slowly replaces the indigenous life with the replicant life forms. The first phase is an attack against the life forms it copied itself from. This is in the form of a viral contagion created by the plasmodial material of the replicant strain. Then it goes through a massive cellular mutation of the top predatory genetic data it has gathered to mold itself into the most efficient enemy possible, and that variant of the virus begins production of these things by inoculating the remaining survivors with the mutant genome, further adapting whatever quality it was that allowed their survival while the rest of the life perished, attaching itself to this genetic trait that allowed the subject to remain immune and mutating it with the nanite strain. Its third phase begins a mass production of inoculation inhibitors that has a name on our world. A few, actually. The names describe this process of phases it goes through. Cthulhu, the slumbering ancient one, and the legend that says that Cthulhu would come and choose a victim that would encounter some demonic-like creature that would infect them with its evil, and they would slowly begin to turn into one of these creatures of Cthulhu. They would slowly begin to physically change as the evil consumed them, changing them into some monstrous version of who they once were. Once this process was complete, they would wander off into the sea as if answering some calling no one but they could hear. The victims were reported to all suffer the same problem at first. They would become one of the squid-faced guys. Though at that point they still are the person they were, but soon they change both physically and mentally. And there was no helping them by then. They were as good as dead.
Personal Journal 11.18 20 to 12:10 p.m. Project Aeon. These creatures are absolutely fascinating for a case study. The viciousness of these creatures is expanded, it seems, due to a side effect of the super soldier enhanced development technique once used by the US military during their days of Project Blue Book. This method causes a rapid development of the inoculation inhibitors and speeds up its genetic development from its plasmodial bacteria stage through the 9-stage phase of the coronavirus cellular mitosis mutation and to the embryonic stage of physical development. It seems the genetic splicing of the great white shark absorbs a majority of the lethal effects of this augmentation serum, and the psychotic attributes that were a side effect the US military have problems overcoming. However, it does cause a profound increase in its predatorial senses and overwhelms the brain, inhibiting its ability to develop cognitive reasoning skills, keeping it in a hive mind type behavior. Social structure. Case studies on human inoculation has taken a different turn from its expected outcome, where they seem to want the host to carry the embryo to develop inside them and awaken by a triggered signature. It instead seems to slowly consume the host. The symptomatic signs of a carrier are: in the first stage of infection, the host will begin to develop pneumonia-like symptoms, high fever, hypothermia, profuse sweating, and a respiratory infection that can cause fluid to build up in the lungs. To prevent the host from asphyxiation, when there are others available to watch over the infected host, they usually subdue their ability to move around and suspend them in midair, tilted forward, with their head positioned to prevent choking. Then the host will begin to develop sores, like staph infection or a flesh-eating bacteria that causes the host to resemble someone who might be possessed. This stage is the cocoon larvae stage of the creature's development, as the human body is gradually replaced by the creature, almost looking lizard-like at first. The host will develop a dual personality next, as the creature seems to be consuming and replacing the host in every aspect, neurologically as well. The last stage, that the human host is lost and consumed by the creature, is in the development of the elongated skull structure. The genetic traits of the anteater snake is augmented to give it the retractable secondary jaw within its mouth that is used to consume its necessary sustainable food source of muscle tissue, as its fast metabolic rate due to the super soldier growth process requires it to consume large portions of this in order to maintain itself. Now, their genetic material required to create this creature involved to different prehistoric species genetic data, but I managed to extract this material from the modern descendants of what was once the pterodactyl species that eventually evolved into the white-brown vulture, and the velociraptor, which eventually evolved into the rock bird or dodo bird, and into its modern descendant, roadrunner.